Okay, good morning. This is Simon with toughtrader.com and Trade and Perform Coaching doing the market preview for the 5th of December. Number one, thank you for all the well wishes for my wife. She is doing well. We have one more procedure to go, and it'll be in a week or two. And hopefully she will be back on her feet and ready to roll, which would be just fantastic. So, but leg one went well. So let's get... So the first thing I was told, did anyone else get the Russell 2000 or is it missing off the data sheets before I get started here really quick? Let me resend the charts with the Russell 2000. A couple of members said that they did not come through last night when I sent it out. I will resend it right now. That's not what I expected to happen. Let's try this again. There we go. Let's try this. Okay. 1205 with RT. And again, I've attached this. Okay, that's sent. You should have the Russell 2000 chart now. Let's get Globex high and low in really quick. On ES, we're looking at 2644.75. So last night I did kind of put out a market preview ahead of time. 2644.75. And then Globex low came in at not a horrible 26.35 1/4, which was close to that 26.34 range. Globex low, and on NQ we came in at, we had quite the range, 62.79 1/4. Just this, I'm all the way down. You'll notice on the guys when I put out the levels that I put levels way deep down there in case we melt. 62.79 1/4. That puts us right at value area low, roughly. Which makes perfect sense, right? And if we look at Globex low, we came at 62. We finally broke last Friday's low, 62.31.75, which was pretty darn close. There we go. To that naked volume point of control. The only reason that wasn't white or yellow was that it was so close to the prior low and given the range, right? So 62.64 to 62.28. It was an all right stretch. We've just been stretching 100 points. I wanted to see where we opened first before deciding to take it in this area. And we almost tested this area already, which is why it's green. It would be relatively easy to break. So look, NQ's weak. This is my overall thought on the market to begin the day. And before I do that, let me pop this up. Quick disclaimer. So past performance is not indicative of future results. This is for educational purposes only. Please, please, please do not follow me or anyone else blindly. Have a trade plan. Have a risk plan. Don't blow up your account. I saw numerous people who blew up the last 3 days. Numerous. None in this room, but outside of this room, people really took some big, big hits. When rotation sizes increase, what you thought was easy before becomes very, very difficult. Okay? The objective is not to make money every day. The objective is to keep the money. So I'm not on for me. Anyone else having a mic issue? Hold on one second. the or dial in. Okay, I sent them a message there. So important, right? The range is expanded. NQ is showing weakness. It's showing repeated weakness, and we no longer have a driver to the upside in the form of the tax news, right? Which does not mean that we necessarily have a driver to the downside, but we don't have a driver to the upside. Very, very important, right? So if we look at the overnight from last night, what you will see is that the majority of the inventory is actually coming in long. Let me show you that. Let's go look at that really quick. And I wonder why. Let me reload this real quick. In session. Okay. And let me go to meeting up. There we go. And I join me. If we look at the overnight, right? This is the overnight from last night. We can see in why are these two looking so different? They're both ES. There is something wrong with this chart. This is right. This is wrong. And I do not know why. Let me try something here real quick. Let's fix this. Here we go. We're going to kill this chart. We're going to duplicate this chart. And then we will fix this chart. Chart settings. And Q. Okay. There we go. Okay. So if you will look, inventory's long overnight on ES, excuse me, on NQ, inventory's long overnight. If we look at ES, inventory's long. Why do I know that? We spent the majority of the time building, right, volume overnight, although that looks extremely short. There's not enough periods there for that to be a correct overnight chart. Let's do it backwards here. Let's see why they're not updating. Here we go. ES, duplicate chart. Maybe we just need a refresh chart. And we'll make this one ES. Let's see if it'll fix it. I don't know why it's not updating, but easy enough to fix. Okay, here we go. There we go. And life looks hopefully happy again. Nope, something's wrong with this chart, and I do not know what it is. So we will ignore for a second why this chart's not updating. Inventory is long on NQ overnight. You know what? Neither one of these have an overnight profile. That's what the problem is. Hold on one second. ES, day and night. ES, chart settings. There we go. There. Now, chart settings. There we go. Something's compromised with this chart. Let's just forget this for right now. I apologize. So overnight, nonetheless, inventory is long. Why do I know that? We pushed down overnight, and we're all pushing towards the high. ES is plus 4.5. NQ is plus 3. ES is pushing towards its high, right? So we have conflicting markets. Let's get this clear. Companies do not merge when there's not value, right? We just had a huge merger with Aetna, right? We have acquisitions in the technology sector. That tends to hold up a market, right? The reason why I'm saying this is don't get bearish in a hole. Okay, when we look at the bigger picture, let me scratch this and go back to my regular charts. Okay. Okay. This is ES. There we go. When we look at the bigger chart and we pull this in, I apologize for the confusion this morning. Okay. Look at the market. We have not fallen apart, right? A couple of things that tell me that. Number one, I have a clear trend line holding right here. We're just below it, but that does not create a broken market, right? First of all, This is where the rally began from. We haven't even come back to retest it. We've got to get below this point, 6120, before the world even remotely starts to fall apart and we get back into just October's area, right? This is just November. This is nowhere constitutes bearishness. If we were looking at this as a daily chart, I would say I'd want to get underneath this location, right, on NQ. I'd want to get underneath there before I really started to panic. People from just a month or two ago are highly comfortable. The only people that are trapped in this market that are remotely panicking would be the guys that were stuck from this point and above, right? That's it. These are the only people that are in remote trouble from a market perspective. Now, you may be down here and going, well, maybe I should take profits. But what's the other reasonable measure you would use? You would draw up a 50-60, right? And you go, okay, well, there's my 50-60. And so long as I held this area, which is my 50-60 retrace, right, on NQ, I'd expect responsive buyers there, right? Unless I got behind that 6120. Remember, this only sets me back to September. If I'm a long-term investor, this is going to be at least, I'm going to try to find a way as a swing trader to go, well, what would make me really nervous about the market, right? And if I were a larger trader, because remember, you're going to need to get everyone but the short traders. You're going to need to get everyone but the short-term traders underneath this level to get them to really go, okay, it's time for me to dump. They're going to close this gap. And what everyone's going to look for is when we fill in this 6120 to 6050, is they're going to look for responsive buyers. You should write that down in your notes. 6120 to 6050, which right now is about 200 points from where we're trading right now. Unlikely to get there in one day unless we really melt today. Again, unlikely. This is the area where people will be looking, including myself, to be responsive buyers for a pushback where? Back to, if we were push into this area, I'm going to look for responsive buyers back to, let's assume we came all the way to the bottom, filled the gap. I'm going to look for a move back to 62.50 to 62.67. Markets don't fall apart in a straight line, and NQ definitely hasn't gotten bearish, right? When we take a closer look, let's spread this out just a bit. Not quite that much. Okay, when we take a closer look at this picture, right? This is our current swing low prior to the last lift, 62.25.75. We're at 62.68. I would draw a line at that 62.25 right here. At that 62.28. I would look for a press below 62.25. It's already written in my journal. I'd look for a press below 62.25 and a trap back in for a reversal back to the upside. Why? Markets like to make sing-song lows, right? That would press us just below the low, panic everyone out, and then come back up and get a swing back to the upside. It would also put us down from 62.68 to 62.25. Globex low came in at 62.31.75, right? So we almost got there. A push just below would make people go, oh my gosh, it's going to fall apart. You realize you have another swing low right below it at 6,200. There's specific areas within this that I'd be looking for, but I expect a response out of this area for a push back up. There would also be a correction from 64.40 all the way to 6,200. That's 220 points. That's a pretty big stretch. If you look at past examples of when we've melted, right, because the market tends to repeat. If you look at the big swings, this is 60.23 down to 58.40, roughly 200 points. This is 61.32 down to 60.10, 130 points. If you look at this move here where we really got deep, it moved from 59.98 all the way down to 57.54. So 59.98 minus 200 would have put me at 57.98. So this put me in the 200-point rotation before getting a response. 200 points from 64.40 puts me down at 62.40. You'll notice that's where we're approximately bouncing. If I combine that 200 points plus my last swing low here to the left, I'm looking for a response in this area. Would make me pretty wise, and I would look for a swing out of that area back to the upside as people get convinced that NQ will move to the downside and it's going to melt. Remember, even if long term we were going to come back and test the 61.32, which wouldn't be out of the question, right? You're going to have this balance between people getting too short too quickly, trying to get the push, having to squeeze those guys out, and then roll it back to the downside if the market were going to break to the downside. And the first test for that happening, let's get rid of some of these lines and let's spread that out. I hate how we can't moderate. At least I can't. There we go. So if I look for my last swing low prior to this pop, and I draw my 50-60, from that last swing low, that puts me right here. At roughly 6,200 to 6,150. This is the neighborhood I'm looking for a response. It'd get me below my last swing low. It would panic people out and set up for a perfect pop to the upside. Additionally, if I look at my trend lines, right, my larger trend line coming from here to here, I know people like 3 touches. I don't have 3 touches. You'll notice that'll come right into that 6,200 area. I just am pretty confident we're going to get a responsive buy out of that area. Now, what is that responsive buy going to look like? I'm going to bring you back to yesterday and to that chart. It's 8:20. I haven't touched ES, but I will in a moment. If I pull up a blank chart and I go to let's say I go to a higher time frame, something beyond, let's just say 10 minutes, anything away from the 5-minute move, right? I get above my last seller, right? I get above my last seller right here. I covered this in the video last night. I wait. I'm above my last seller. I draw up my 50-60 back. Okay. Now I have 2 options here. First of all, from my 50-60 back, right? That was 63.19. They gave me a roll almost back to 63.30. That's 10 points, $200 a contract. You could have scaled and moved your stop to break even, right? The next place you got above your last seller was right here on this bar. You draw up your 50-60 back. Enters you at 62.91. Again, that gave you 10 points. Move your stop to break even. It actually set up a 40-point extension to the upside. You didn't need levels. You didn't need tick. You didn't need anything else to run this strategy, right? And then again, we get underneath our last buyer. And again, I want to point out, you get to the last hour of the day, and we haven't been able to stick the bounce. Once we came in underneath and retested that low and were unable to get back above, it was all over. We really shouldn't have gotten back behind the 62 retrace of this move, right? When you look at this move up, you didn't want to close behind the 62 retrace of this move up. See how they tried to hold that 62 exactly? Once they got behind that 62 retrace, it was all over. Again, in the last hour, when we can't hold that 62 retrace, it doesn't always hold, just like nothing always holds in the market. But that is a very big concern for the trade. So for my trade plan today on NQ, first of all, I'm aware the rotations are large, right? I want to make sure I've adjusted my risk size because it's 20 or 30 points of rotation up and down very quickly is what we've seen. If you cannot measure and you cannot find edges easily, be cautious. Let it settle out. You'll notice that once it finally settled down and you got a stretch, you actually had good trading opportunities. Number 2, I'm working on 30 to 60 point rotations, right? Guys, for members in the room, I'll explain the algo I'm putting in the room later on this afternoon. You'll just see little dots appearing on the screen. Don't worry about them for now, right? And then lastly, I'm looking to see, can we get above, coming back over here on NQ. My first question of the day is, can we get back into number 1 question? Can we close in back above 62.79? Currently trading at 62.63. If after the first hour we have not closed into 62.79, I'm going to assume a push down to retest 62.25 and areas lower, right? It is not a good sign when you can't, just like when we're on the upside and we don't close back into value area or get beyond it, it's hard to be bearish, right? There are exceptions to the rule, like yesterday, like this day, where we traded straight through, right? We traded straight through, but most days, right? If you cannot get back into the value area, you cannot pass through. My guess is that we'll be contained somewhere between 63.23 and 63.07 if we do get back into the value area. We complete repairing We complete repairing the profile right there at 63.21. I am looking to be a responsive seller at 63.21. I'll tell you right now, the profile gets repaired. There's a volume point of control. I'm willing to look for a setup that will give me a trade out of that location. Put that in your notes, right? If we can't get back into 62.79 within the first half hour, I'm going to look for setups in this lower area to give me pushes down towards 62.25. That is my trade plan. Don't know if they'll give it to me, but that is my trade plan. In ES, let me find my ES trade plan. Trace all lines. Okay, we are currently trading at 26.4175. If we cannot get back in and close back above 26.50, I'm going to assume that we're going to come back down and attempt to repair Globex low at 26.26. Excuse me, the profile has damage in it. It's the best way I have to describe it easily. And that's down at 26.26. Globex low came in at 26.35, which was right above the TPO point of control. Now, just because we repair it doesn't mean that we can't sink a little bit further down. From 26.41, 20 down would put us at 26.21. 30 down would put us at 26.10. I expect a response somewhere between that 26.26 and 26.10. What am I looking for? Get above my last seller on a higher time frame, a 10-minute, and then look for a 50-60 back for the swing back to the upside, and or use the zones. One of the two. That is my trade plan for today. I expect it to be contained on the downside, and I expect this area to contain us on the upside, right? And I would look for most likely for balance on either side. If we get past this 26.34, my only point of concern is all the points of control behind it have already been tested. However, it's unlikely that we break for more than 20 or 30 points without news driving us. I'll look at the market internals off the open to make that decision from there, right? Other than that, 10 points, tick divergence, right? And I will be calling out and pointing out where the algos are setting up trades. Please just track them, members in the room. Do not just grab them randomly. Watch and see. There are failures, okay? There are definitely failures on that algo setup, and it requires me sometimes to stop, take a stop, turn around, flip, and go short. So I will, or vice versa. I will point that out as it's going on. It should improve trade location or trade setups, particularly from the zones. Give it time, right? I've been testing it for months now, and it does work, and it does set up some very, very nice trades. But you got to give it time to work. The stop is above wherever the signal or below wherever the signal is generated. And I will call those out both in NQ and in ES and on 5-minute and 15-minute time frames. Anything else that I am thinking about? Really, that's it. Just let the market come to us, guys. See where they're at. Everyone's going to be pretty nervous out of the gate, both on NQ and ES. See where they line up. If y'all will give me a minute, I'm going to get my coffee refreshed, and then we'll see where we are off of the open. Okay. So members, thank y'all for joining. Guests, thank y'all for joining us on the market preview. If you'd like to join us in the room, you can send me an email at tradeandperform@gmail.com. I expect a two-sided market today. I expect a two-sided market, and I expect big rotations in both directions. So look for tick divergence, look for the stretches, and look to get above your last seller for pushes back in the opposite direction. Don't be afraid to take a stop in the process of capturing the larger move today. So I will be right back. Okay, there's tick, guys. Have a wonderful day. Thank you guys for joining us on YouTube. If you liked it, if you would please, please, please hit the like button. It really helps me out with customer service from YouTube. So if y'all can take a moment to hit the like button, I would thank you very much for doing so.